You spend months building the perfect website, the funnel, the branding, the offers, all of it polished and professional and exactly right. And then you launch and nobody buys. I see this all the time, and the answer is almost always the same. They build the perfect thing without ever checking if anybody actually wanted it. Hello and welcome to Simple Business Dream Life. I'm Emma Hine, and today we're talking about something that I think could save you an enormous amount of time, money, and more importantly, disappointment. And that's testing before you go all in. And before you switch off thinking this is going to be a drier conversation about data and analytics, stick with me because this is actually about something much simpler and much more exciting than that. It's about making smarter decisions, building things people actually want, and stopping that cycle of creating brilliant stuff that somehow never quite lands the way that you wanted it to. So let's start with the two mistakes that I see most often because they sit at opposite ends of the exact same problem. So, mistake number one, building everything before testing anything. Now, this is the one I've just described. The person who spends months creating the perfect business before they've sold a single thing. The website has to be right. The branding needs to be immaculate. The funnels need to be built. The offers have to be perfectly packaged. And only when all of that is done are they ready to actually start doing the stuff. But just because you have all this fancy stuff, it doesn't mean you've got an instant business. The fancy stuff, it doesn't create the sales. The sales create the business. And the only way to know if the sales are coming is to try selling before the fancy stuff exists. Then there's mistake number two. And this is throwing something out there with no research and no real idea who it's for or what it's for. Now, this one is the total opposite of mistake number one, but it comes from the exact same place, skipping something, skipping over the step that tells you whether what you're building is actually what people need. No testing, no research, no check-in, just creating and launching and hoping. And then there's disappointment when it doesn't land. Both of these mistakes are expensive, but both of these mistakes are avoidable. And they all come down to the exact same thing, skipping the step that gives you the information you actually need to make good decisions. So let's talk about what you actually get when you do this properly. Because I think people underestimate just how much testing can change the game. The first thing you're going to get is confidence. Bet you weren't expecting that, were you? But you're going to get real confidence, not the fake it till you make it kind, the kind that comes from knowing that your offer works because real people have said yes to buying it. When you go all in on something, you've already tested, you're not hoping it lands, you know it lands. And that changes everything about how you show up for selling it moving forward, and also changes how you show up in terms of delivery too. The second thing you get back is time because you're going to waste less time. Time you would have spent building something nobody wanted. Time you've spent tweaking and perfecting and finishing before you found out it wasn't quite right anyway. Testing gives you that information early because you've committed everything to it. And early information is the most valuable kind because you can still do something with it before it's cost you so much time. And then the third thing is money. Money not spent in the wrong places because building the wrong thing is expensive. And you know what? It's not just financially expensive. There's the energy that you're spending on it too. There's the opportunity cost of what you could have been building instead. The cost of launching to silence and having to start again. Testing isn't the cautious option. It's actually the best commercial one you can make. And it doesn't stop there because testing is not a one-time thing. It's a cycle. You test something, you learn from it, you adapt based on what you learn, and then you test again. And each time you do that cycle, you get slightly better information. You get slightly clearer on what's working, and more importantly, what isn't. You get slightly more confident in the decisions that you're making. And that all compounds. Over months and years, the business owner who tests and adapts consistently ends up so much further ahead to the one who builds in secret and then launches and hopes. And that's not because these people are smarter or more talented, it's because they're working with better information. And that's what measuring gives you. It's not just about numbers on a screen, it's a clearer picture of reality. And a clearer picture of reality is going to enable you to make better decisions. And better decisions mean you're going to get better results every single time. Now, I want to reframe something here because I think testing gets a bad rep. People hear tests before you go all in and they think it means being cautious. It means you lack confidence. It means that you're not fully committing to something. Whereas I'm actually going to reframe that because it's actually the opposite. Testing is one of the smartest and most commercial things you can do in business. And I learned this properly in my e-commerce days. When we wanted to add something new to our product range, we didn't just order thousands of units and hope for the best. We'd buy a small quantity first. We'd test it, see how it sold, see what the feedback was, see whether it actually worked in practice the way we thought it would on paper. If it sold well, it went onto the main line. If it didn't, it got cut. There was no massive financial risk, no warehouse full of stock nobody wanted, which actually is where most product businesses go wrong. You've got stock you can't shift. And in service business, that same principle applies with funnels, with offers, with freebies. And dare I say it, domain names you've bought ready for that next thing you're launching. One decision around testing first wasn't hesitation, it was risk management. It was making better decisions with real information rather than expensive assumptions. And the same principle applies to every part of your business. Before you build the full program, test the concept, run a beta, offer founding member places, build it with real people in real time and let their feedback shape what it becomes. You end up with something that's actually exactly what people want rather than what you assumed they needed. And you save yourself months of building something that misses the mark. Before you invest in that full brand shoot and the website redesign, test what you're building works. Because if it sells without the fancy website, it's going to sell even better with it. And if it doesn't sell without the fancy stuff, then do you know what? The fancy stuff isn't going to fix that. Before you commit to a new platform, a new system, a new strategy, test whether your audience is actually there and actually responding to it. Because the data is going to tell you that, but you have to be willing to look at it. And testing doesn't mean a soft launch or a beta, it doesn't only mean that. It can be as simple as a conversation, a poll, a question to your audience, seeing what language people use when they describe their problem. Notice what questions keep coming up in your DMs. All of that is really valuable data. All of that is testing, it's market research. And all of that is telling you something really valuable, but you need to pay attention to it. Now, where a lot of people go wrong with testing is they gather all of this information, they gather all of this data, and then they don't like what it's telling them and they do nothing with it. And I think part of the reason for that is that people don't really know what data to look at. So they open their Instagram and analytics, they see the reach and the impressions and the engagement rates, and they think, you know what, my content's doing okay. My engagement is great. But what is that engagement actually giving you? More sales, more inquiries, more of the right people in your world? Or is it just using your time to create content that people scroll past, double tap, without even giving it any action? Because you can have a post with 200 likes and 0 sales, and you can have a post with 3 likes and 5 inquiries. And only one of those actually moves your business forward. So knowing what data you're looking for matters. The data that matters is not the data that feels good. It's the data that's connected to what people actually do, not what they consume, what they actually do. So you need to be looking at what offers have sold, not what engagement you got on your content, what actually converted to money, to sales. What content led to the sale or the inquiry, not the fact that 4 people liked it, an actual conversation or a click or a yes. What questions keep coming up in your DMs? Because that's your audience telling you exactly what they need in their own words. That is valuable data. What did people say yes to versus what did they just say nice things about? Because people will tell you something is a great idea all day long, but the ones who actually buy, that's your real data. That's telling you what people actually want. And when you have that data, actually use it. Adapt things, tweak things, change things, build more of what's working and cut what isn't. Because data without action is just information sitting there gathering dust, and we don't want to be doing that. Right now, in August, I'm doing exactly this with my organized chaos. This is my August long, month long experiment. And over the last 3 years, I've been doing something like this every single August, and I've learned so much. I've learned that people absolutely buy in August, not despite slowing down, but actually because of the fact that they've slowed down. When people step back from the doing, they have more headspace to think about what they actually need. And when your offer lands at that exact moment, they're going to say yes because they've got the headspace to see it more clearly. I've learned that people love excitement. They love the feeling of something happening, of something to come back for, of not knowing what comes next. I've learned that people love tasters, a glimpse of something before they commit to the full thing. My AI mentor has shown me that already this month. People have engaged with it, played with it, loved it. Now, whether that converts to the full investment, I genuinely don't know yet because it's still in test, and that's okay because the test is telling me things I couldn't have known without running it. That's what testing does. It gives you real information in real time, information you could actually do something with. So, what I want you to take away today is just start. Not with the perfect website or the finished funnel or the fully built program. Just start. Test the thing. See if it lands. See what people say and what they do and what they actually buy. And then build the fancy stuff around what you know works. Because the business you're trying to build, the one that makes consistent money and attracts the right people and feels like it's actually working, that's built on real information, not assumptions. And the real information only comes from testing. So this week, I want you to pick something you've been waiting to perfect before you try it. And I want you to try it imperfectly. Try it today. See what happens. Pay attention to what the data actually tells you. And I don't mean just the likes and the reach and the people saying that's nice. I mean the real stuff, the conversations, the clicks, the sales. And then I want you to do something with what you learn because that's how you build something that actually works. Not by getting it perfect before you start, but by getting started and letting the reality of what happens tell you what perfect actually looks like. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.